Hello, I hope everyone is healthy, safe, and well. I am Jacoria Borders, a program specialist here at the Blank Foundation, coming back for part 8 of our series, There Is No Finish Line. We're back this week with a special guest and grantee to highlight their work, where we are, and how far we have to go. For today's discussion, we have with us Dr. Lakeysha Hallmon of the Village Market, Atlanta. Affectionately called Dr. Key, Dr. Hallmon is a social entrepreneur, curator, speaker, and passionate educator committed to revitalizing and unifying the Black community by curating community-led events that celebrate the arts, change makers, entrepreneurs, and plant-based advocates and educators. Dr. Key believes each of us must dedicate ourselves to serving the good of our people, and that we are a community and our fate and our futures are interconnected. If we act in oneness and in the spirit of togetherness, not only can we survive, but we can thrive. Without further ado, I just want to hop right in with the one, the only, the myth, the legend, Dr. Key, to talk about the Black buying power in Atlanta and beyond. Dr. Key, how are you? It's good to see you. I feel like it's been forever, and we were long overdue for a catch up. How are you? How's things coming for you?
I'm well today, as well as can be. We have some super exciting, just wonderful things happening in the country, in our great state of Georgia. As a business owner, I am well. As a Black woman, I am well. And I'm just super happy to be here and have this conversation with you, Jacoria. Thank you, and the Blank Foundation for having me. Am I guest number 8 or guest number 9?
I think you're guest number 8.
Good. So I'm excited to be guest number 8.
Awesome. I mean, I just want to speak to that notion. It really is truly a great time to be Black. It's a great time to be a woman. It's a great time to be a Black woman. It's a great time for HBCUs. So I really want to harp on that. So I want to open up by just tell us a little bit about your background and how your dream of starting the Village Market came to life. We know you started your career as an educator. You know, you're from Mississippi, so you're a Southern native. Like, when did you make the transition from education to entrepreneurship? And did you think, what do you think impacted that approach to how you operate in business?
Yeah, so you know, I don't know if I ever fully have made a transition. What I say is that my life just looks differently now. I still teach. I still believe so much in education. It's just the way that I educate now. Where I was confined to a classroom teaching 10th and 12th grade English. Now I feel like the world has become my classroom in a different capacity. But Jacoria, neither has outserved the other. And that's why I say I haven't transitioned out. I was just in one juncture of my life, I was teaching in the Mississippi Delta, and it opened me up completely. I think I had my first experience of what it meant to love someone or a community so deeply that you were not where I was not from, or to love children as if they came from my own body. And I'm not a mother. And so that at the age of 22 through the age of 26, I was in the Mississippi Delta, being a freedom fighter, a rock star teacher to some amazing young folks. And when it was time for me to, I would say, transition to Atlanta, it solely became, and I'm sure any other entrepreneur, any person, that you can tell when you've been pushed to do something else. And so that nudging, that annoying nudge just kept being there. I'd gone into administration and it was cool, it was great. I started working for the Georgia Department of Education when I decided to move. It was amazing. But that nudge of entrepreneurship would not leave me alone. And so the conversation that I had with myself, I am a dedicated educator for as long as there is life in my body. How can I still serve my calling, but in a different way? And that answer came in many different forms. I began to connect with entrepreneurs passively. I love coffee shops. So I'm sitting in a coffee shop in the middle of the day with a bunch of entrepreneurs who knew that people worked in the middle of the day at coffee shops? So that was my first interaction with culture in Atlanta and the entrepreneur lens of what it meant to be a Black entrepreneur in the city of Atlanta. But so when I moved here from Mississippi, I didn't move here to create the Village Market. I had no idea I would create the Village Market. It wasn't a thought. I came to Atlanta because what I saw in my life, Mississippi just could not give that to me anymore. When it came to culture and the way that I wanted to fight against change, Atlanta just, in so many ways, if you're in Mississippi Delta, it is the Black Mecca. And I know we're going to talk about that today. And so I was just driven to get here to the Mississippi Delta, but I'm a proud Mississippian. I must say, in so many ways, Mississippi is a scarlet letter to some, but it is my nucleus, it's my root. And so as much as I love Atlanta, A-Town down, I am a true Mississippian, proud Mississippian. And I come from a really great family of good folks. And I graduated from Tougaloo College, and all those experiences happened in Mississippi.
Awesome. So that leads me right into my next question. So we know through your website that African American buying power, I did do my homework a little bit. African American buying power is currently about 1.1 trillion. But yet only 2 cents of every dollar that an African American spends actually goes back into a Black owned business. And then we also know that, Atlanta is one of the fastest growing metropolitan cities in the US. So can you tell us a little bit about the racial disparity that we see here in Atlanta's economy, both historically and today? And then how is the Village Market working to actually change that?
Yes, and so remember, I was so excited to come to Atlanta because it's the Black Mecca. I think we have the capacity to become a Black Mecca. We're not fully there yet. And we're not fully there yet due to the numbers. As amazing as Atlanta is and has been for entrepreneurs like myself, the value of a Black business in Atlanta is still only $58,000. And the value of a white business is over $600,000 in the city of Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Civil rights backdrop.
Right.
What are the best states to do business? Wait, what?
And so talking about, and this is, and thankfully for the good friends at Atlanta Wealth Building Initiative who've done a really good job on reporting these things, but also Atlanta is the #1 city in America for inequality. So inequality for Black folks. So let's make sure we make it clear for Black people. And so what that means, if you are born in poverty in Atlanta, you only have a 4% chance of outgrowing that poverty. I grew up in poverty in Mississippi. That 4% chance, somehow I escaped it. And so how do you escape that in a city unless things are being built and catered for your growth? And so the Village Market is being built and has been built to cater to that 58,000. How do we get it to that 600,000? And so the opposition that I found, Jacoria, in 2016 when I launched the Village Market, I didn't know how to raise funds. You and I have laughed about this many times. Well, I did know, and this is from being in Mississippi Delta, I knew what it looked like to have a community to completely ride for you. And so I didn't go after investors, I went after community. Because that $58,000 to me means, how can a family fully exist, a full family, and $58,000? How can a solopreneur really scale their business if you can only hire yourself? And so for me, the Village Market became a call to action for the community. If people were looking for a place to buy Black and to come to an experience that operated in the highest levels of excellence, when you are seeing some of the most amazing entrepreneurs that you will be completely awe-inspired. My goal was to bring all these people, these amazing entrepreneurs in a space, because what I eliminated was the excuse that I don't know where to buy Black from. The excuse that being Black means you're siloed and you only do this one thing. Because in the village, there are multiple things that Black entrepreneurs, Black small businesses are capable of doing. And my job was to show that and to make sure that it was loud and vibrant. But beyond that, I had a charge because we talked about Atlanta being the leading city in this country for inequality. My charge was, how do we push against that? And to me, you push against that. One of the most tangible ways is considering and rethinking how you spend. You push against every time that you buy local. And in this conversation, every time you buy Black, you're pushing against that 58,000. And if we want to get Black businesses to a place where they scale, then we have to do that a lot. And so when we do something a lot, it has become a lifestyle. And so my job with the village market, my call with the village market, that buying Black is not a thing that you do in a moment. It's a thing that you commit to over a lifetime. And so the village market has done an amazing job of making buying Black the norm and not something that you do because it's this cool thing to do over a weekend.
You know, that it's a word, but to my next question is a perfect segue. You all have coined the phrase, support is a verb. And I think you kind of answered this a little bit, but share about literally what that means to the village market and Black-owned businesses and what we can do to continue to support over a lifetime and not just right now, because it's the hot thing to do.
Absolutely. So the teacher in me, when I was trying to get my students to be excited about things, I would always have them do simple sentences. And that simple sentence should be able to tell exactly what you stand for. And so for me, my simple sentence was, support is a verb. A verb itself means action. If you support something, you put your action, your willingness, and even your unwillingness to go behind it, to make it live. And so I believe it's 2016, 2017, when we coined support as a verb, and it became a thing, it became infectious. And we now have thousands of hashtags that say support as a verb. It's really dope apparel. But beyond the apparel, beyond the hashtag, support as a verb is a call. Again, that call of action. That if you really love a thing, that I can't imagine how you love it if you have not put some sweat equity to it. If you haven't shared it on your Instagram, if when your family is coming to Atlanta, that you haven't told them that it's this amazing place that you have to shop from, that you're not going, if you love it, then you're going to actively leave reviews. That if you're sitting at a table and people are talking about grant opportunities and investment opportunities, when you get that seat at the table, support as a verb means there are thousands of businesses that's coming with you that you're fighting for. And so what I wanted to do when I created support as a verb, that it didn't matter where you sat. If you were in corporate America sitting in a coffee shop as an entrepreneur, you can find yourself in that call. And so it is, to me, one of the most amazing acts of love and community. And at the end of the day, support as a verb has turned into $4.5 million being circulated in the great city of Atlanta. So again, we're pushing against that $58,000.
In the second half of 2020, and I know me and you have talked about this a little, more and more organizations have been rushing to support the Atlanta Village market. And I want to know to you, honestly, why is that? And how does it make you feel about what you've built? And moving forward, what are your thoughts on the game plan moving forward in 2021?
Really good question. I answer first with, how does it make me feel about what I built? I knew that what I built was excellent before I ever got funds. So I feel the same. I'm very clear on what my North Star is. Now, does it make you sleep better and more comfortably at night when you know that you're supported with funding? Absolutely, yes. But nothing, there's not an amount of money that can change what's deeply inside of me, the joy that I feel every time I see an entrepreneur materialize their dream. So that feeling has been there since 2016, and with the grant funds, the only difference is that I can hire more people now, right? I can have bigger events, that I can serve more entrepreneurs. But you ask, how did we get in this position? And in so many ways, and historically speaking, position is often set by a deep pain, a deep heartbreak. And so when I cried because Ahmaud Arbery was murdered, and it took weeks before the world knew, then fast forward to watch a Black man see the life in his life and breath being so emptily pushed from his body in front of the world, where he screamed for his mother, and my mother is also deceased, and his mother is also deceased. There was a heartbreak, there was a fracture. And that fracture hit so deep that it made people angry. And what happened in that anger, people feel the streets. People feel social media. People started to ask organizations, what are you doing about Black-led organizations? What is your position here? And they had to come with receipts. And so the Village Market has been a beneficiary of the receipts, that because of this deep-seated pain, what can we do to solve this? Or what can we do to help heal this? And so I'm very clear that a lot of this attention has come our way due to heartbreak. And so that is why I honor the life of George Floyd and Tamir, who was my person, who was one of my first heartbreaks. But I'm very clear that it took a heartbreak happening before Black-led organizations. We've been doing the work since 2016. We haven't transitioned and transformed. We've been, the level of collecting receipts, the level of thousands of people have been coming to the Village Market and supporting has been there. But what happened is that the world was called to attention. And the question was left with, what are you going to do? And people waited for the answer. And so what normally happens, we get angry, heartbreak happens, and we don't wait for an answer. And when people marched, and when I marched for days after days after days, there had to be a change. And the Village Market has been, again, the recipient of that change. But I say that the work isn't more persistent now. We've been doing this work. We should have been an organization that grantors should have supported years ago. But I'm very clear on why we're getting this support. But I'll double down and say, it is easy to support an organization that has the structure in place, that also has years of receipts, years of qualitative and quantitative experience and data to support it. So when grantors have come, and we're grateful for it, we also can come with a package that we can hand over. This is the work that we've been doing. These are the results that we've been given.
And so I actually want you to stop here and actually talk through a little bit of your programming and the different classes that you offer to help entrepreneurs, other than just being, because, we have conversations and it's about being a part of a village, right? It's not just about the actual market itself, but it's being a part of a village and having folks that you can call on if you need help with your taxes, call on if you need help with how to scale your business. So talk us through the teacher in you, about through your programming. And then I kind of want to shift the conversation in that piece of how you had to adapt during COVID-19 with that very same programming.
The teacher in me said I would fail every entrepreneur if I only had a marketplace. The teacher in me said, what happens to entrepreneurs if you can't do this marketplace anymore? And any leader should push whomever that's working left and right with them to be able to survive if they're not there. And so the programming that we've created since 2015, actually, the programming such as Unstuck, one of my favorite programs. I always talk about this the most because I've seen the most change happen here. Jacoria, personally, in 2017, I was so deeply depressed and stressed because I did not have an ecosystem to help me in the ways that I was personally stuck as an entrepreneur. And so I bottled all those feelings and turned it into a program, because what I knew is that if the tears are rolling down my eyes, if the loneliness and the questioning and the imposter syndrome is coming up for me, then it has to come up for hundreds of other people just like me. And what I felt then, that I was stuck. So I created a program called Unstuck. And Unstuck brings a person who's reached the ceiling. They've done all that they can do, and what they need is a group of mentors to sit around a table with them and to selflessly help them literally grow beyond where they are. And so Unstuck calls 13 to 15 amazing leaders to gather around entrepreneurs over a course of 3 hours and to selflessly share the knowledge. And so we've seen amazing results come from that program. We've seen entrepreneurs come in that have legal stress and legal trouble and have no idea how they're going to be able to afford legal support, walk out with an attorney. We've seen entrepreneurs who were striving to get a governmental contract leave, or within 2 weeks, emailing us and say, I got my first contract. Because to me, and how growth in these barriers can just absolutely go away if we can get everybody at the table. And so Unstuck has been, we're going to create a table for you. Now, everything that we do in the Village Market does this. If you receive, then you must give. And so there's no money tied to our programming. So there's no fee. But there is a fee that you have a responsibility that when you've been taught, you must then go out and teach. So every entrepreneur in the Unstuck program who's seen amazing success, then they get the charge that they have to go out and teach. And beyond Unstuck, however, it's my favorite program. It's absolutely amazing. We have the Village Come Up Clinic, and the word is true to form. We're truly working to help entrepreneurs come up, meaning they're stuck in a place, or they have an amazing idea, and that idea has somewhat stayed with them, and now it's time for them to grow it and scale it and mature it. Then the Village Come Up Clinic brings in those entrepreneurs. And we're excited to be launching our Ascend 100 program. We've been collecting applications now for over 2 months. We've reached 38 states with applications that have come in for the Ascend 100 program. And the goal with the Ascend 100 would be an incubator over the next 18 months to support businesses to ascend beyond COVID-19 and to reach sustainability. And so the outpour of support with Ascend, and also the outpour of applications that have come in outside of Atlanta, has been so humbling. And we've been building our infrastructure to make sure that we have enough mentors, enough trainers, so we can produce a really good program that's going to launch in December. But the marketplace is the cool and fun thing that we do. That's when you get to see community up close and personal. That's when you get to get dressed up a bit and go out on a Saturday night. But the programming piece is what keeps community alive and vibrant. That's when what we're doing is teaching people how to fish. So they don't ever have to come back to us and ask us for a fish, right? But if they needed to, they know there's a village. And so the door is never closed.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You inspire me more and more after every conversation. But I actually want to ask you, what gives you hope? Like what brings you hope for our communities? What brings you hope for our city? What gives you hope for Georgia? What gives you hope for Black entrepreneurs across the country?
What gives me hope is something that, as a Black woman, and a proud person who was co-raised by my grandmother. I was also raised by my parents. But she would often tell me that resiliency flows through your blood. Mm-hmm. And then when I was young, I didn't really know what that meant. It sounded cool, it's a big word. And so I would ask her, okay, cool, what does that mean? And she said, there's nothing that you cannot survive. And so what gives me hope is something that I learned when I was young. There's nothing that we cannot survive. But I said we, not I. We, meaning as a community, if we work together collectively, there's nothing we can't survive. So what gives me hope is that I've seen in the last couple months, and go all the way back when I was 22 and teaching, I've seen constant examples of community gathering together. I've seen people selflessly give and never do a social media mention of what they did. I've seen and experienced friends calling and asking me, do you have any businesses who may need an injection of capital, I don't want them to know it comes from me. I'm going, can you just make sure they get it? That gives me hope, because it's the selfless servitude that I have experienced up close and personal every day. But in the most simple forms, beyond community, when I see my young nephews have no idea what it really means to flip Georgia, have no idea what it really means that their auntie is an entrepreneur, but they asking me these questions with so much excitement. We flipped Georgia, the 5-year-old, and he's excited about it. Or my 12-year-old nephew say, Auntie, you are my hero. That gives me joy. I wake up with a level of fullness, even when I'm exhausted every single day, because I'm in the field working with everyday people. And so even when it's tough, Jacoria, in full transparency, my cup overflows. And that it keeps me going. And I'm also very clear what my North Star is. But when you ask me what's coming and what's in the horizon for Black entrepreneurs, I think the answer is not an answer of hope. It's an answer of how are we going to respond to the charge? What's in stake for Black entrepreneurs is a decision. Where are we going to spend our dollars? Where are we going to invest? Where are we going to deploy funds to Black-led organizations? And that's not hope talk. That's a decision and a choice that individuals have to make. And for entrepreneurs, the question would be, what is your route to always operating in excellence? Mm-hmm. Because the existence of Black entrepreneurship is through the craftsmanship, the diligence, the passion of desiring to operate, desiring to operate in the highest of their excellence. So the state of entrepreneurship is in part solely upon two people, those who can invest and those who create. And they must form a marriage. So the excellence for entrepreneurship, that has to be our bar. And investors constantly, in the community, people like you and I, when we go out and shop, we have to constantly make a decision. Am I gonna put my money or not where my people are? And then if not, let it be because you can't, not because you didn't choose to.
Well, Dr. Key, I want to tell you personally, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your faith, your inspiration, and just pouring your full self into everything that you do, and your full self in entrepreneurs, not just in Atlanta, but all over the country. You know, we thank you, and we hope you understand now that you are part of the Blank family. You can't get rid of us, even if you tried. Our chairman is super excited, and just thank you for all the work that you do. And we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Blank family, I'm happy the Village Mark is a part of the family, and thank you all for your commitment in so many arenas to growing and advancing our community.
Awesome, thank you.